The Giants added a big physical player to their defensive end edge room in Chauncey Golston, formerly of the Dallas Cowboys and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Nick Falato here to break down some Golston tape while going over what this means for the New York Giants moving forward as we start to transition to the 2025 NFL Draft. Golston signed a 3-year, $19.5 million deal. That puts him at $6.5 million AAV, which is around the same price as Tyree Wilson, a first-round pick still on his rookie contract of the Las Vegas Raiders, and DJ Wanham of the Panthers, who signed that deal last offseason. So for a 27-year-old ascending player coming off of a 43 pressure season with 5.5 sacks, this is a value deal. You're striking while this player is ascending. And I would argue this is the exact type of player the Giants wanted to add to their edge room with Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeaux. He's a different body type at 6'5", 268 pounds. He has 96th percentile wingspan, 87th percentile arm length. I believe he has like almost 11-inch hands, just a massive freak when it comes to a measurable standpoint. And it seemed like he put it all together in Mike Zimmer's defense last season. So let's get into the tape and showcase what this guy will offer the New York Giants moving forward. We'll start with some pass rushing plays for the 6'5", 268-pounder. Look, this is somebody who had 37 pressures last year and 5.5 sacks and 790 total snaps. Through his previous 3 seasons, he had 54 pressures, 4 sacks, and just over 1,000 snaps. There's a reason, though, why. A lot of Cowboys fans and people who cover the Cowboys are a little upset that Golston walked out the door and is now playing for a divisional rival, albeit it's the New York Giants and they're not necessarily threatening many people. We'll go over some of these plays a little later, but you'll see this is a high motor player, somebody who combines explosiveness and power and force into contact at the point of attack. I'm not going to say that this is somebody who's like a Brian Burns when it comes to bending. He's not. Again, he's 268 pounds, a completely different body type. This is not somebody who is going to always penetrate and win with his quick first step. That's not the type of player Chauncey Golston is. He had a 5.1 PRP according to Pro Football Focus, and that's a formula that combines sacks, hits, and hurries relative to how many times they rush the passer. That ranked 55th in the league, right around where Cameron Jordan is. He was 53rd in percentage of wins with 8.8%. So again, not a dynamic pass rusher, but somebody who can win his one-on-one matchups when there are double teams around him. That's what he did with Micah Parsons. That's what he did with DeMarcus Lawrence. This is a player who, if you put him next to Dexter Lawrence with Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeaux, no one's going to say, hey, we need to double team Chauncey Golston. But he will take on his one-on-one matchups. He will play thoroughly through the whistle. He is relentless as a pass rusher, and we have seen him string moves together, specifically this past year. He really came along with his push-pull, his swim move, his push-swim, all of these, I wouldn't say easy pass rushing moves to pull off, some cross chops, a variety of different swipes and things of that nature to keep his chest clean. He's also pretty aware as a player, as you've seen throughout this. He's reading the play, gets his eyes on the football, knocks passes out of the air, and is also, I would say, an asset as a looper and has enough strength at the point of attack to be a penetrator, builds up enough momentum to run through players, and also just dictates at the point of attack. And here's going to be some run plays by him as we just kind of talk about this player and who the Giants gained. I would say a very high-end type of third rusher. Now, is this going to be the closer? No, different type of player again. But these are the types of depth moves that the Giants want to make. And I do think this is more than just a depth move, but since the Giants have Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeaux, this will be labeled a depth move. It's a player who is on the up and up. It's a player who has a different body type. If you think about Shane Bowen's system, Shane Bowen had Danico Autry when he was the defensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans, a bigger edge rusher. I also think Roy Robertson-Harris can play that type of role because he's 280 pounds. I will say this also, Giants still need to find an interior defensive lineman, somebody with some girth to play next to Dexter Lawrence, but in certain packages, specifically pass rushing packages, you could put Golston out there and he can thrive. And he's not a slouch as a run defender either. This is somebody who does a good job using his power to anchor down, good flexibility in his lower half, solid ability to create torque and power in tight quarters when he does keep his hips low. Now, there are times I'm not going to sit here and act like he has the best anchor, because there are times where he tends to get his back turned when he is initially engaged with an offensive lineman, and yet he still tries to penetrate. He tries to slide off the block. He'll get turned, and then he'll get put on the deck. He's not the best at handling double teams all of the time. But as you can see him keep his hips low. You can see him get his feet underneath him and then maximize all the length that he has, while also getting his eyes on the ball carrier and working towards the play side and sliding off of blocks. These are all things that he's done at a solid rate. Now you can see these are back to some of the pass rushing plays as we continue to talk about him. See him try to land that chop transition into a long arm, get Justin Fields off the spot. Justin Fields almost throws an interception. That was late at the end of one of the halves, but you see that little chop, dips around the edge. I wouldn't say that's his best move. Landing a rip move doesn't necessarily have that type of 3-step cornering ability and explosiveness to win high side, but you can see how he sets a lot of things up with his length. And he also does a good job when he is framed up by the offensive lineman to change direction and then get back to the half man. This was an excellent play against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a 3rd and 4. The Cowboys ended up winning this game by 2 points. A 3rd and 4. Chauncey Golston is the unblocked defender, and you can see how 67 just throws him away. This is towards the boundary, the play, towards the side where Golston is aligned, even though the ball's in the middle of the field, but it's going towards Golston. Golston is able to outpace Rachaad White, to stop Rachaad White and get him to try to juke Golston out. And this is just enough to get White out of bounds to set up a 4th and 1 where they punted. The Dallas Cowboys ended up winning that football game. Big play in the first half of the game there. You can see the power too. He can bull rush. And another reason why, it's not just because he is just an incredibly strong player, but he does combine that explosiveness with the power to provide force at the point of contact and enough movement ability to do what he did to John Runyon, our guy John Runyon, on this play. This is also just amazing scheming by Dallas and Mike Zimmer, because you have Micah Parsons as a 4 tech to the left side of your screen, and then Golston as a 4 tech to the right side of the screen over the top of the tackles with 2 wide defenders, one of them being a defensive back. First 3 steps, you send Golston right at the tackle, get John Runyon to open his hips just enough, and then a guy like Golston can cross his face and has enough power to work the inside shoulder. And when you look at it, Runyon attempts to cross his feet and get back into position to match the lateral quickness of Golston, gets his feet all tangled up, and Golston drops him on the ground. Drew Lock still completes the pass, but still a great play by Chauncey Golston. We see a lot of plays like this. Force into contact, strength at the point of attack, bull rush, stays low a lot of the time for a guy of his profile. This is an interception of Jaden Daniels where he comes away with it. He just wanted this play so bad, ends up getting it. Absolutely love to see that. We have plays where this big man hits the swim move. You're going to have I think that's Brandon Coleman going out to block him on an island. Golston takes 2 steps up, feels the momentum, understands that Odigizua is going to occupy the guard. Odigizua occupies the guard, got the one-on-one matchup. These are the types of situations that Golston can take advantage of. Work back towards the inside, separate. Marcus Mariota tripped over himself and fell down. Funny looking play. Here we're going to see power right at Andrew Wiley, who's a starting tackle for Washington last year. Wiley's feet just get all tangled up, but it's also the power dictated by the length of Golston to land that inside arm and to just drive right through Wiley. Here's another play against Coleman where he spins out, gets held, draws a flag, relentless, got the motor, Energizer Bunny. Say whatever you want to say about it, but he keeps going until that whistle is blown. Getting more power at the point of attack against Washington. Here is aware enough to see that underneath pass on a 3rd and 2, come up with the stop, sheds the blocker, makes the play. Again, awareness, eyes in the back of his head to tackle and track down Nico Collins. What was just a quick little slip screen. Hands in the air. Let's watch his hands against Greg Van Roten here. Play goes, see initial contact, hits the inside wrist of Greg Van Roten, and then he brings Golston, that is, his outside arm to pull Van Roten's outside portion towards him. So he's not allowing Greg Van Roten to gain any access towards his chest. And you can see the center of gravity of Golston rose, but it was in pursuit of landing these moves, these targeted moves, which he did. And that got Greg Van Roten out of position. Van Roten does a good job exploding up and then contacting the chest of Golston. But Golston at that point worked the half-man relationship, got his hand over the top of Greg Van Roten, and now Greg Van Roten is in a position where Golston's chest and his numbers are facing the pocket and his hips are beyond the point of establishing contact, and Golston's able to get his hands in the air and knock the pass on the ground. Here's another one on the stunt, twist, knocks Kenny Pickett's pass on the ground. So these are the types of plays we're going to get from this massively long individual. He plays against the run again. Works through another aspect of his game I enjoy. You'll see how he fires off the line of scrimmage here. He is over the big tackle, 6 technique, if you will. And you see how he moves him. I think that's Tyler Steen. Gets his hands inside. Watch how his eyes go right at the mesh point of Saquon Barkley. And then he takes Tyler Steen and he moves him with some help from his teammate. And then he's able to slide off the block, create that separation with his massive hands, slide off the block, work through trash, locate the ball carrier. Does well when he's working through trash in pursuit as a backside defender, tosses the tight end to the side, hits Chase Brown. Just get out of my way, New York Giants offensive tackle. Another swim move. Good in the one-on-ones, as we said, right? Good in the one-on-one situations. Gets into the backfield, earns these TFLs. It's that quickness right there. That's the initial quickness on the line of scrimmage. Now, this is also scheme, and it played right into what the Detroit Lions were doing defensively because they were all reaching. He went to the inside away from the blocking scheme, and the guard has a 3 technique over top of him. So he was not necessarily cognizant or expecting the 6 technique to cross right back into the B gap like that. He does. Brings Jahmyr Gibbs down. Love him on the goal line because he's just strong enough to be sturdy at the point of attack and help out just enough. Here's a good representation of that. See how he just holds up, and he keeps the Detroit Lions out from scoring a touchdown. Here's more against the Giants. Or just sheds. I know people are going to say, well, it's against the Giants. It doesn't really matter that much. And they may have, something there. There may be some merit to that argument. But you know what? We're watching some tape here, ladies and gentlemen. Love this play against the Texans. Guard's going to reach, block. Look how low he gets. Look how low those hips are. Look how those knees are almost on the ground, yet his feet are underneath him, and he's able to just act as that fire hydrant, that root, that stump in the ground. Not going to let you push. Look how the offensive lineman can't gain any traction at all. The long arm is landed right on the chest. The offensive lineman can't gain any part of Chauncey Golston's chest, his hips, anywhere, because Chauncey Golston has freakishly long arms. And then just anchors down and stops the running back right in his place, allows all of his teammates. Those are the types of plays against the run that I enjoy seeing. Now, I would argue that's not the case all the time. You see a lot of this where he's able to just break free somehow and make the tackle. But I wouldn't argue that he's this amazing run defender. I think he's a good run defender. He can set an edge. He goes up against tight ends. He's going to throw him aside. So as an edge rusher, and he's versatile enough where you can put him inside and he will be able to handle his one-on-one blocks against a lot of tackles in the NFL. But you get those double teams on him. If he is shaded and you can get just a clean combo or duo block on him, he may get put on the deck or he may get turned around, especially if he doesn't expect the block, right? And they get him turned. It's something that we'll see a little bit at the end of this video where he's trying to penetrate even though 2 guys have made clean contact on him and he's not getting his feet underneath him and he's not sinking his hips and he's not absorbing that contact. Instead, he's still trying to penetrate and find a way around the block. They don't get it uprooted, and that can screw with the entire continuity of the defensive structure. But with that said, there are plays like this where he just gets his hands inside, eyes on the running back, sees where the running back is going. Now, the linebacker certainly helped because the running back had to get bounced right towards Golston. And at that point, this is just great, excellent team defense. You have 35 who is going to occupy the B gap. Golston has his hips in the C gap initially. Tackle works to that. By that point, Saquon Barkley is committed to the B gap where there's already 2 second-level defenders. You can argue 3, and then 99 is just sitting right there, low hips, low feet underneath him, maximizing that length, tackle in a terrible position, tackles, chest is high, tackles, hips are high, because Golston won the pad level battle despite almost being 6'6". Different type of player than Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns, as you guys can all see, but still a valuable one, especially at $6.5 million a year. It's really not that much money, especially for a 27-year-old who just had his best season. Sometimes we've seen guys like this get paid. Now, he didn't have an amazing season. It's a 5.5 sack season, right? But it's still a very good season. And I would argue this is a necessary role player to add to your defense, especially when with the Giants, man, they have a dearth of talent in their defensive front. Still need a lot of work, in my opinion. But this is a solid football player. Here you see him working through trash, double team. He's able to split the double team eventually, anchor down, stays on the inside portions of Alvin Kamara. Look, Alvin Kamara wants to cut this back because you have 3 Dallas defenders towards his outside, but Golston really does not allow him to effectively do that because he is lower, as you can see, and he keeps his hips between the 3 defenders on the outside and Alvin Kamara. So Kamara can't really cut back. You have those other pursuit defenders. He's processing right now. Alvin Kamara's like, where can I go? There's nowhere for me to go. And that's another reason why I appreciate Chauncey Golston is on these zone runs and even these pin pull concepts, these runs where the defensive line needs and the defense in general need to maintain gap integrity, discipline, and responsibility. They move as a unit, and he does a good job moving through contact when it is these one-on-one situations to locate the ball carrier and not over pursue and run himself out of his own fit, which happens a lot in the NFL. You need these types of smart defenders who could do that. But here's some of those concerns that I was mentioning before. He's a 3 technique here. So you have 79, big dude, 77, excellent offensive guard in the National Football League. And they're going to double team, and you can see him just get blown off the ball here. And this is just getting out-muscled and out-powered. Because you're 268 pounds. You're an edge rusher. And Dallas, Mike Zimmer, and so did Dan Quinn, they liked putting him as a 3 technique, a 4 eye shade. And when that happens, you're going to get out-muscled by 2 offensive linemen who are starters and above average starters in the National Football League when you're 268-pound edge. And he's going to play this role with the New York Giants as well. So it's something to pay attention to. I don't think he is deficient as a run defender. I don't think he's a poor run defender. I think he is actually an above average run defender. But when he is absorbing those types of blocks and he does not anticipate it and wants to do something else to avoid it instead of just anchoring down, he can get blown off the ball. There are times where he anchored well and even split the double teams, but there are times like this as well. And we have to acknowledge it. So you have a tight end, you have the tackle. He's trying to shed the tackle and then get off the tight end, but there's just nowhere for him to go at that point, and he just gets tossed on the ground. So getting put on the deck is something that did happen to him. I wouldn't say a decent amount, but enough to take note. Here, this is more so what I was referring to before, where there's this double team. He's trying to split it. He doesn't anchor down. He's trying to get in, and then 72 is able to just turn his back. You never want to see the back of someone's jersey from this angle of the All-22. Here, Quanu does a great job just bullying him off the line of scrimmage. Here, this 5 technique, 68 gives him the stab, and then he's just conceding ground. Now, Chuba Hubbard ends up getting tackled, and it's not a horrible play, but it doesn't look great for Golston on tape. There's another play where you see him kind of just get washed, but it doesn't really, I wouldn't say this is as big of a deal because he takes on 2 blockers, and now the unblocked defender just makes the play, even though Mixon got tripped up. But yeah, we'll run through some of these pass rushing reps to close this again. Don't need to go through, already went through a lot of them, but I like this signing a lot. I don't see the downside in it. 27-year-old player who, again, not to belabor this point, but he is ascending. He had a good season. He just proved himself in another system. I wouldn't say he was bad in Dan Quinn's, but he was a young player, and Mike Zimmer was able to tap some sort of part of his game that hasn't necessarily been actualized yet. And we saw it in full effect. You see a lot of the highlights. These are all 2024 plays. It's a combination of power. It's a combination of, I would say, solid hand usage. He's not great with his hands, but solid hand usage, and just understanding his own physical gifts and knowing how to maximize those physical gifts. That's what I would say he did in 2024. And you get him with Andre Patterson. That's something that really interests me. Somebody with this arm length, this wingspan, those hands, the type of hustle that he has, his body, his frame, all of those things, and still a young body, not necessarily a player that you need to put too much on his plate, but you can bring him along and use him in certain situations and in certain packages, along with Kayvon and Brian Burns. And this is an upgrade on the defensive line when it comes to just being more physical. As much as I love Azeez Ojulari, and Azeez Ojulari is a much different player than Chauncey Golston, Azeez Ojulari is more of a Brian Burns type, whereas Chauncey Golston, the Giants don't have anybody like this. Like Kayvon is not a Chauncey Golston. Golston is a bigger, more physical type of player than Kayvon Thibodeau. Now, different players. Kayvon, I would say, is a better football player than Golston, but at $6.5 million a year, this is a good signing by the Giants, and I'm looking forward to see how exactly Shane Bowen employs his skill set. I think when you have him as these four eyes, these three techniques in passing situations with Burns wide, Dexter as the other four technique, and then Kayvon towards that side, it's going to put offensive protection packages in a bind. How are you going to defend Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns wide with Golston as well, who's going to be the least guy that you're afraid of if you were the defense. And then Kayvon, you're going to need to have a 6-man, a 5.5, a 6.5-man protection with the chips and then the releases from the running backs and the tight ends. And there's no one on this roster right now that offered that. There's no one of this body type or even of this skill set. And again, I'm saying this for the third time, they need to add somebody who's like 310, 320 pounds, who is better than Rakeem Nunez-Roches. And Roy Robertson-Harris, he's okay as like a defensive line 4, but he's another one who's like 285, 290 pounds. Golston is a different player than that. And again, he's on the up and up. So I appreciated this signing at this price point. And I think the Giants got a good football player right here. As they truck along here in free agency, we'll see if they add anybody else who is of value to the 2025 New York Giants, 2026 and 2027 for Golston's sake. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into this. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I am Nick Falato signing off. Take care and have a lovely one.